A meeting of finance ministers of G20 countries is set to get underway in Bengaluru tomorrow. Ahead of the meeting, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who is in the city, stressed greater aid for Ukraine and a global economy recovering from a series of blows. Yellen said it was critical for the International Monetary Fund to move swiftly towards a fully financed loan program for Ukraine. Ukraine seeks $15 billion multi-year funding from the IMF. In December, U.S. Congress approved an aid that included a new $45 billion package of emergency military and other assistance to the war-torn country.
As President Biden has said, we will stand with Ukraine in its fight for as long as it takes. We commend our allies for stepping up their direct assistance, and we believe it's critical that the IMF move swiftly toward a fully financed program for Ukraine, as they've said that they will do. Continued robust support for Ukraine will be a major topic of discussion during my time here in India.
While commenting on the state of the global economy, Yellen said that it's in a better place today than many predicted just a few months ago, as the spillover of the Ukraine war raised concerns of slow growth. However, she also said that it's important for G20 finance chiefs to keep working to ease inflation, saying price caps by Western countries on Russian crude oil exports are helping stabilize global energy prices. The U.S. Treasury Secretary also said that the United States is looking forward to resuming talks with China on economic issues at an appropriate time, as Washington continues to warn Beijing of the consequences of violating U.S. sanctions on Russia. Earlier today, Yellen met Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The two leaders discussed issues relating to crypto assets, strengthening multilateral development banks, and global debt vulnerabilities. According to the Indian Finance Ministry, both sides also acknowledged the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to enhance preparedness for future pandemic-type shocks. Well, for more on this, we are joined by Raymond E. Vickery, Jr., Senior Associate at Wadhwani Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Trade Development, and Advisor on U.S.-India Relations. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. Well, ahead of the G20 finance ministers meeting, Janet Yellen, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, is speaking of a global economic situation being far better than what was feared and expected in the backdrop of the Ukraine war. I'd love to hear your reaction on that. And are things really better, or is this the calm before the storm?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think this is a very important time to be discussing this subject. India really stands at the crossroads of being able to bring back prosperity and stability to the world. Not only is it president of the G20 this year, it's also president of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It's had initiatives in North-South. So India is really crucial in all this. That having been said, it is encouraging that there are signs that the economy worldwide is not as bad as had been predicted after the invasion of Ukraine and bellicose statements from China. I think the important thing to understand here is that while we've gotten some relief in terms of growth, the United States has done better than expected on jobs. India is expected to be a very fast-growing economy this year. That economic and security matters are deeply, deeply intertwined. And it is not possible for the world to go forward and achieve the prosperity that it should have and have an ongoing war in Ukraine, to have the possibility of China trying to take over additional territory, whether it be from India or in the South China Sea. These things are very much related. So I would say the jury is out in terms of where we're going to go with the economy, and that makes this meeting in Bengaluru today even more important And hopefully India will step up and provide the kind of leadership both on the security and economic side that it's capable of.
Mr. Assistant Secretary, much has been said of the new geopolitical realignments, the U.S.-China tussle, and even things coming close to pushing the nuclear button. What are your thoughts on the possibilities of even a third world war emerging out of the Ukraine conflict? I know you mentioned that geopolitics is very aligned and related to issues regarding the economy.
Well, I think we're in a very difficult and dangerous time. If you look up the history in terms of the lead-in to World War II, there are too many similarities to the present situation. The difference is, instead of it being Nazi Germany, it is in Russia invading its neighbors and saying that it is entitled to have zones of comfort, and whether it be in the Baltic. Unfortunately, this kind of thinking is a reversion to the old imperialistic kind of approach to international affairs. That whether it be China saying it has a sphere of interest that includes Arunachal Pradesh, whether it be Russia saying that in Ukraine, the Ukraine is a part of Russia, which it is not. Those are very similar kinds of situations. So I don't think you can discount that. And I'm glad you brought up the nuclear situation. Everybody seems to think that, well, nuclear weapons will not be used, people will saber rattle, and it won't happen. The reality is that these things can happen, whether by mistake or design or just the impetus on expanding territorial control. We've got to get out of that kind of thinking. India and the U.S. have worked together in the past on international matters, including nuclear matters. We had the civil nuclear agreement between U.S. and India. And it is not a time to just dismiss these possibilities out of hand. In fact, we need to redouble our efforts. The recent action of Russia saying that on the New START treaty that is basically is pulling out, going not to allow any inspections, and without inspections, you really don't have any method of enforcement, is very, very troubling. India is now a de facto nuclear power. It has been recognized as such. The United States has made great efforts to try to get India into all of the basic nuclear control organizations. India and the United States need to work together and to completely take seriously this problem of what happens with nuclear weapons. Peace is not something that comes automatically. It has to be waged, and the U.S. and India need to work together on that.
Mr. Raymond Vickery, Jr., thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we do look forward in speaking to you very soon once again.